know, change, it truly is difficult for all of us, right? And one change that is very controversial, you know this, the Barham off-ramp on the 101 South Freeway, just near Universal Studios.
And who better than our own David Nazar to be here to explain what happens at the off-ramp that has neighbors, nearby businesses, Universal Studios, everybody up in arms.
I use that, so I'm worried, and I see the traffic in all the different buildings that have gone up in that area.
We all do, and Rick and Elizabeth, as you said, what if the freeway exit that we use every day was closed permanently? Could that create gridlock problems for your drive to work or home? Well, it is creating problems these days near Universal Studios off the Cahuenga Pass on the 101 freeway. Now, this all stems from a Herculean project that NBCUniversal is trying to get done. The multi-billion-dollar company is looking to increase the number of visitors to Universal Studios by revitalizing the theme park and production facilities around that area, and it's also investing millions in transportation improvements. However, one part of this massive project has some residents infuriated. The historic southbound Barham off-ramp at Cahuenga Boulevard is now closed permanently. You're probably familiar with the area. This part of the 101 connects communities such as Studio City, Burbank, Toluca Lake, and the Hollywood Hills. And it's a thoroughfare for places like the Hollywood Bowl, Runyon Canyon, Warner Brothers Studios, and on into downtown. The controversial Barham closure was the brainchild of NBCUniversal, which owns Universal Studios and the 400 acres the theme park and City Walk sits on, along with its production studios and corporate offices. The idea is for their thousands of daily visitors to have better freeway access to and from Universal Studios with a new ramp of their own. Unfortunately, that has the many people who use the Barham off-ramp every day livid, namely a grassroots organization called Keep the Barham Ramp. The organization is suing NBCUniversal and Caltrans, citing lack of disclosure over the new project and safety issues. Almost 30 folks from the organization met me out here at the Barham ramp on Cahuenga. They desperately want their voices heard.
I attended the first meetings that they had, and they said that the Barham off-ramp was off limits. It was not going to be removed, and they lied to us.
When something as major as this is planned, community groups deserve to be informed, and we weren't.
I'm outraged because this is a perfect example of how big corporate money is corrupting our government and shutting the local residents in the Cahuenga Pass out of the process.
I'm angry because they're ruining the neighborhood.
They're cutting emergency vehicles off from being able to reasonably access our homes.
Police, fire, and rescue are going to be delayed getting to our homes and our businesses.
I'm angry because a big corporation, a multi-million-dollar corporation, has been allowed to take control of a ramp on a public highway.
I'm angry because rerouting traffic that would normally come off this exit to Lancashire and Highland is not the answer.
I got really angry when I found out that these corporate schoolyard bullies had bulldozed this ramp.
The duplicitous nature of Universal's action is almost criminal.
Corinne Verdery says she is extremely sympathetic to the angry neighbors, who she also says are just a few in number. Verdery claims that a majority of the Cahuenga Pass community is not angered. Verdery is Chief Real Estate Development Officer of Global Real Estate for NBCUniversal. Verdery is in charge of the entire project. Verdery admits she and the company have been reluctant in recent years to talk to the media about the project. However, she gave us an exclusive interview to explain in detail.
The project that we're talking about is the 25-year development plan known as NBCUniversal's Evolution Plan, which is we have the rights to build more production, more office space, more theme park, and 2 new hotels. The company is required to do several mitigations to mitigate traffic impacts. The transportation improvement package is about $100 million of transportation improvements. The number one mitigation that the community around the property wanted was a new southbound on-ramp directly from Universal's property to get their traffic onto the freeway. 70% of our traffic uses that southbound 101 freeway. And so we need to build, as part of our mitigation, a new on-ramp to the freeway. That ramp is too close to the Barham off-ramp, the southbound off-ramp, and therefore Caltrans determined for safety reasons that the off-ramp needed to close.
When did you tell the neighbors out there you were going to do all of this?
It was discussed several times over the years that the community really wanted this new southbound on-ramp, where there were multiple community meetings and public hearings, that there was a possibility, if Universal did this mitigation, that the off-ramp, the Barham off-ramp, would need to close. But the official determination was made by Caltrans in May of 2014, and about that time was when the community found out and Caltrans held a public meeting. That was after a very long process of looking at multiple alternatives of how to keep that ramp open. Over 26 alternatives were studied to try and keep the Barham off-ramp from closing.
Could there have been a better way for you to alert the neighbors and the public as to what was happening?
Honestly, we followed everything that we needed to do. There were over 200 community meetings where this project was discussed.
They keep saying that they're interested in the community and that they're working with the community, and that they had over 200 meetings with the community before they got the acceptance of their plan. It's what they didn't say in those meetings, not what they did say. These angry residents say, you're a liar, you've deceived them, you've not given them disclosure, you've not been transparent. Of course, when I say you, I mean NBCUniversal. What's your take on that?
All I can say is that we do our very best to communicate with all of the communities around the property.
The folks who want to keep the ramp are convinced that the closure of Barham is going to cause complete gridlock for the area.
We realize that this is a really tough change for folks to accept. We do believe that our new ramp, which again will take 2,000 cars off of Cahuenga Boulevard in the peak hour, will really dramatically improve transportation and traffic in the area and help with that gridlock situation.
There's no way to justify closing a ramp on a state-funded freeway, causing a 2.5-mile gap on a state-funded freeway with no alternative exits.
Now, you just heard in my report a quick mention of the lawsuit that's been filed by the Keep the Barham Ramp folks. So this gets complicated. I'll try and keep it simple. The organization actually filed 2 lawsuits against NBCUniversal and Caltrans. Now, the first was back in December of 2014. That lawsuit was dismissed, and an appeal that is still pending has been filed. The second lawsuit was filed in mid-October. This one basically had a request for a temporary restraining order on the Barham ramp closure you saw out there in the story. Well, that TRO was denied by the judge. The case itself has been continued for further consideration by the court to be heard in early November. And again, this case revolves around lack of disclosure over the project and concerns over safety issues. However, the angry residents say, look, it is even simpler than that. It is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they claim, that puts profits over people. Of course, NBCUniversal, like any business, says we should be allowed to increase its earnings. And the company says, Rick and Elizabeth, in the process, we are doing everything we can to improve that entire area for all the folks and neighbors involved.
They do have a right to do that.
Well, but it's you know, this idea of residents against Universal, there's a third party here, a big party, Caltrans, a state agency. They're the ones that are supposed to put out notices and make sure that this project, that people know things are being closed. What does Caltrans have to say about this?
Well, basically, it is NBCUniversal's project. They own it. Caltrans is a government agency. It gets its directive from NBCUniversal. As you know, of course, Caltrans has to find out about the environmental impacts, EIR. I did, of course, call Caltrans. I was told, we'll try and get you an interview. Never heard from them again. I called back, wanted a statement. Never heard from them again. Caltrans has a bad habit of never going on camera and answering any questions, to be quite honest.